For more on how the events on Capitol Hill could impact the markets, let's bring in our guests right now. Joining us now, Brian Gardner, KBW's Washington research analyst, and Sarah Bianchi, Evercore ISI, U.S. policy and politics head. Brian or Sarah, do either of you watch? Is there a better site than Predicted to try to figure out where the smart money's going on these things? Brian?
I don't know. One, as you noted on the Bloomberg issue, it's a little illiquid. Yeah. Two, I don't think it was that accurate going into 2016.
I don't want I can't use the polls. I mean, come on. Sarah. I mean,
no,
I actually anything versus the polls.
Joe, I actually think the polls were roughly accurate.
Well, are they accurate now?
On which? On the general or the Democratic primary?
You tell me. Is Elizabeth Warren 8 points ahead of Donald Trump? Is that how you put your money on if the election were held today, Brian?
At the national level, she may be close to that. I think what's more interesting is to look at where the battleground polling is in states like the Great Lakes industrial areas in Florida. And there it has it a very close race, 1 or 2 points either way. And so, I think the polls are roughly accurate. Again, and then you have to factor in, what is turnout going to be? How engaged are voters right now? So
I don't think 98.2 on the night of the election, and it switched to 98.2 as the night went on. Whose poll were they using, Brian?
I mean, from where we sit today, I think the polls give us a roughly accurate picture of where the election is.
But what happened last time? And you said it was pretty close, but obviously, if people were using the polls to decide last time, they were abysmally disappointed in the information they were getting before the last election. You can't now. Maybe you say that the popular vote, it was kind of close or whatever.
That's why I made the distinction at the top of my answer of the national polls versus the local polls. And look, there were a number of state polls that were quite accurate going into 2016 in Florida, in North Carolina, in Ohio. Yes, the Great Lakes states were off, and so you have to take it with a grain of salt. So when I look at Predicted, when I look at the polls, I don't look at either of them as being entirely accurate. I think they give you a rough idea, and two, much more important, it's something I should have mentioned, it shows you where the trends are. You look at polls over time and how the electorate is evolving. And so a poll today is not necessarily predictive of where we're going to be in a year, but over the course of the year, polling taken in the aggregate can show us direction of where we're going.
I guess I'm not as bullish on polling. I think Predicted and other things, they do show you trends, they do show you directional movement, but they were directionally wrong in 2016. I think what you're seeing with Bloomberg is a little bit of interest when he first got in, and then the reaction that you saw, which was basically the warmest welcome that he got, was from Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and not really from voters. And so I think he won't actually end up getting in the race, because I think when he pressure tests this into out there in the country, real people, real conversations, he's going to find that actually setting this up between Warren and a billionaire is not particularly the best place for the moderates in the party to go.
Sarah, Brian, if the House rushes through impeachment and there's a trial at the beginning of next year, how does that impact Sanders and Warren? Because wouldn't they actually physically want to be in the Senate for however long Mitch McConnell chooses to have that trial?
Yeah, it is going to have an impact on the primary, and I think that's really what the market is more focused on, because as you all said, the Senate doesn't have the votes to remove, and that's not likely to change. It is going to have an impact in Iowa, where voters really do expect their candidates to be on the ground in December and particularly in January. So it is going to be a complicating factor. It's not just the two of them. It's also Kamala Harris, if she's still in at that point, and Cory Booker. And then also the conversation is going to be about impeachment, and it's going to be about Ukraine. It's not going to be about the distinctions that I think folks really, primary voters really want to see, which is Medicare for all versus other approaches on health care. So I think it's unfortunate for the process in general. So they're going to have to figure out a way, whether it's paid advertising or other ways, to kind of get their message out on what voters are actually focused on.